Chapter 4. The truth shall set you free, and it is not what you think. Isn't it ironic that in a book focused on money, we have discussed very little about the specifics of money and your financial situation? This is of course deliberate. The first 10 years of my spiritual journey were filled with pain and anguish, not because the universe was not responding to my requests, but because I spent more than half the time immersed in my self-created problems and then tried to get out of them. It may be hard for you to grasp this spiritual truth all at once, but stick with me for just a bit longer and everything will become clear. Our continued fixation on a perceived problem perpetuates the problem, long after the original cause is gone. The same applies to any financial blockage or lack which you perceive in your life. The lack is there because of your continued focus and perception of it. If you take your mind and eyes away from the lack for a sufficiently long period of time, things will sort themselves out in an instant. This is universal law. But how does one begin? How do you even begin to take your eyes or mind off something that you perceive to be so important for your well-being? Doing so would be irresponsible, or at least that is what society has attempted to teach us. Society has taught us to be practical, to always keep an eye on our problems so that we can solve them. But if this way of problem solving works, there would not be any problems remaining. We would all solve our problems and be done with them. Everywhere we turn, people are complaining about the stressful recurring problems and issues in their lives. When one issue is settled, another one is waiting for them around the corner. So what's the root cause there? The cause is our continued fixation on the perceived issues of our life. The situation can be tricky when it comes to our finances. Since such a large part of our well-being is tied to our finances, it is easy to be reminded of our financial situation whenever we make buying decisions or pay our bills. Most of us compound the issue without realizing it. Let me explain. Suppose that you perceive financial lack in your life right now, and you think you do not have enough money. Your bank balance is always a concern to you, and you are frequently worried about how much money you have in the bank, whether you can pay the bills when they are due, and whether you'll have enough money for your expenses. What do you suppose the real issue is here? The fact that your bank balance is low, or your continued and sustained worry over the state of your bank balance? Think carefully before giving an answer, because this answer will give you the epiphany that you need. For the first 10 years of my spiritual journey, I used to think that the former was the real issue. I used to think that the fact that my bank balance was low was the objective reality. That was the reality I was perpetuating at that time. What I did not realize is that the latter was actually the true cause of the perceived financial lack in my life. It was my continued and sustained worries over my bank balance that kept perpetuating the low bank balance, not the other way around. This is a leap in thinking that most people struggle to make. But once you successfully make it, this simple switch can be most liberating. This simple switch can be the most liberating thing in the world for you. The truth will set you free. In other words, if you are worrying 16 hours a day about money, then your 16 hours of worrying is the true root cause of the problem, not the external financial situation. You are spending 16 hours immersed in an unwanted, undesirable inner state, which will subsequently lead to our outer manifestations. The low bank balance by itself is not the problem, because it's just one version of reality, which can be changed. It is old reality, caused by your old thinking, and thus can be replaced by something better from this point forward. When I introduce this idea to people, they are amazed by how easy it is to change your reality. Naturally, they are also skeptical, since they have spent most of their lives worrying. But here's a way which will allow you to step into a new reality very quickly. Instead of worrying endlessly about your finances and debt, make a conscious decision right now to worry about them for just 15 minutes a day. That's right. Set aside 15 minutes a day where you can sit quietly by yourself and worry all you want about your problems. However, after those 15 minutes are up, tell yourself that you're done with your worrying for the day. All your worrying should be done with that allotted time for the day, and any new worrying should be done during the next day. Do you see what we have just done here and how powerful this technique is? We have just gone from 16 waking hours of worrying to just 15 minutes a day. And if you can go from 16 hours down to 15 minutes, you'll be able to go from 15 to just 5 minutes and eventually to none. But I do not expect anyone to make the leap from a lifetime of worrying to giving up their habit instantly. This method of creating a special worry time for yourself will help as it drastically reduces the amount of time in which you spend negatively creating. One common objection I receive is this: but if I just ignore my problems, they do not go away. This is a form of escape. To the ego mind, this seems like a form of escape. It seems as if you're dodging the problems in your life instead of facing them head on. But let's be realistic for a moment. Sum up all the time you spend worrying about your finances in the past day, week, month, or year. You'll be surprised at the amount of time you've been stewing in these negative, worrisome thoughts. Has this brought about any improvement of the situation? Has this led to a more desired reality? Maybe it is time to try something different, since this method has not worked despite the amount of time we have put in. If you succeed in going from 16 hours of worrying right down to 16 minutes of worrying per day, things will change in an instant for you. All of a sudden, good things will start happening in your outer reality for you. This is not just mere fantasy. I have lived it, and so have thousands of readers around the world who have taken the time to write heartfelt reviews for my books. They certainly did not have to do so, and I never ask for reviews for my books. All that I ask for is that you give these techniques a chance. Try them. Try this new way of thinking and acting in the world. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Even if my method of reducing your worry time does not work and does absolutely nothing to your finances, you would still emerge a much happier person. That would be a drastic improvement from the way which most people are living now. Let me share how things turned around very quickly for me once I began to apply the principles in this chapter. Hopefully you too can take a leaf out of my book. For the first 10 years of my spiritual journey, I was constantly worried about not having enough money. My low bank balance was the root cause of the problem to me, and I attempted to use all sorts of metaphysical techniques and methods to improve my financial situation. Because I was so fixated on the issue, I spent most of my waking hours thinking and worrying about my financial situation. It was like a sick feeling in my gut I could not get rid of. Along with worrying came a whole host of negative emotions, such as blame, guilt, sadness, and self-criticism. Understand that all of this is merely the law of attraction at work. The law of attraction was working round the clock to bring me more negative feelings that matched the worrying feelings I already held all day. How did I arrive at the 16-hour figure in the previous example? It was from my own life. I spent almost 16 hours a day worrying about money and all the things that could go wrong in my life as a result of not having enough money. The only time I did not worry was when I was asleep or when I was engrossed in some form of focused activity or entertainment. Still, when left to its own devices, my brain automatically defaulted to worrying and fear thoughts. I never perceived my continued worrying as the issue, which is why I never tackled it head on. I kept thinking that my low bank balance was the issue and cause of everything, which is why I tried so hard to overcome it through my use of various convoluted metaphysical techniques. Understand that the physical situation which you perceive to be the problem is never the problem, because any situation in outer physical reality is the result of your inner state. Return your inner state to one of peace, and the outer circumstances will straighten themselves out. During that period of my life, I frequently drove past a church which had the words, "The truth shall set you free," printed in big, bold letters. I remember reading those words and feeling a deep connection to them on the inside without really knowing why. Perhaps it was the universe's way of telling me that everything I needed, the truth that I so desperately sought, was already inside of me. And when I realized it, I would be finally free. True enough, the truth that I needed was indeed inside of me. And once I saw my negative worry feelings as the true cause of my problems, everything corrected themselves within a short time. Let's talk about dealing with the more practical aspects. Suppose that your bank balance worries you, and you know that it is a tangible part of your current reality. How do you ignore it or stop worrying about it so much? The way I did it was simply to not take a look or pay any attention to it unless I absolutely needed to. This means that I went from thinking about my bank balance almost every other moment to thinking about it only once or twice a month when I needed to pay my bills. This simple switch in behavior helped immensely because it reduced a lot of the associated worries and anxieties that I had. So make some lifestyle changes to avoid bringing up those worry feelings. Remember, it is the feelings you frequently hold that are the issue, not the unwanted manifestation itself. Take a look at your life and identify certain activities that frequently make you anxious or worried. For some people, it can be the simple act of paying for something with their credit card. If the mere act of using your credit card reminds you about your debt and makes you feel worried about whether you can pay your bill when it arrives, stop using your card. Find creative ways to work around these activities. For example, you can change your lifestyle habits such that you pay for most of your purchases in cash. Withdraw some cash from the bank at the start of the month and pay cash for your purchases during the month. This simple switch may not eliminate your debt overnight, but what it will do is to change the way you feel about your debt. This simple move reduces the number of times you're reminded of your financial situation during the day, and it can go a long way in terms of your physical manifestations. How many times do you worry about your bank balance or the amount of money you have within a day? How about reducing that number to 0? That would not only make a huge difference in the way you feel, it will also make a tremendous difference to your outer reality as it relates to money. Once I switched to this new way of thinking and acting in the world, my previously perceived problems with my financial situation simply fell away. Everything dissolved on its own accord within a few months. Suddenly, new sources of income and business opened up for me. The money came to me from all the different sources that delighted me. When I needed to buy something or fulfill a need, the money was already there for me. I did not even have to start the process of asking for it. But is it magic? Not at all. It all started making one simple change in my life. that of recognizing that what I previously believed to be the ultimate truth and ultimate reality was not my reality at all. All that was merely an illusion perpetuated by my own inner state. Once I restored my inner state back to its natural peace of love and peace, everything else good on the outside followed.